What's up, guys? First and foremost, I am going to be lifting weights during this video. Why? Because I have been sitting on my butt. I'm not gonna curse. I'm trying to drop cursing because for some reason I've started to curse like a sailor. But essentially, I've been sitting on my butt for quite a while. Watching and reading Hunter x Hunter, and I never exercise. So even if I can get like 2 minutes of exercise in for the entire day, I'm gonna do it. And my motivation is like very, very strange. So if I don't like seize any opportunity where I feel like exercising, then I'll probably like lose that motivation by the time I finish this video. Anyhow, it's kind of a good prop anyways. So what I want to talk about today is, oh man, I'm tired already. I think I'm going to quit very soon. I want to talk about Hunter x Hunter, and it's going to be the last freaking second to last video on the manga series. Why? Because from the looks of it, it doesn't seem like it's going to be rebooting anytime soon. The manga artist has been on hiatus for, I would say, like 10 months now or something. And so I'm coming to a close. I'm currently on chapter 335, and because of this, the chapter's going to 340, but I kept telling myself I wanted to get to 340 before I do this video, but I had literally sat there like trying so hard, reading pages upon pages for hours and hours and hours, and I decided there's too much to talk about. I'll just do a video on this, and I'm very, very tired from reading hours and hours and hours of that, and quite honestly, it got pretty boring. So I will be covering what's happened since my last Hunter x Hunter manga review. And so the one I did before this was I believe like 40 or 50 chapters ago. So yeah, I read like 40 or 50 chapters, which took forever, like hours and hours and hours and days, and it was tiresome. Why? Because now there's very little action and chapters upon chapters of just dialogue, which I don't really like, especially when the dialogue isn't that great. And so last video I got until almost the end of the Chimera Ant arc, but not quite. And so now I finished the arc, and now I've started the next arc, which is the current latest arc. And I don't know what you would call this arc. I guess you could call it the Killua takes her sister to save Gon arc. Again, spoiler alerts first and final. And so as far as the Chimera Ant arc, I just want to give my final thoughts on that. First off, a lot better than this arc. This arc, so boring, so much like pages upon pages of just dialogue, political dialogue that's so uninteresting, and for me to plow through hours and hours of that to try and get to chapter 340, which was the last chapter released for like a year, it's just too much. And so I'm taking a break from that, and I was a hard trooper. I read chapter for hours on end, up until the point where I was super bored, and I kept going because I wanted to finish it. And sure, there were some good points in this thing, but let me just finish up on the Chimera Ant arc. Great arc, very touching at the end. I did a whole like 10-minute speech on that in my last video, just saying how awesome it was. So that's all that needs to be said. I would give the final rating of the entire arc as a whole, especially mainly the ending. I'll give that like a 9.4 out of 10. Very, very high rating. Very, very solid. And sure, I did mention before in my previous video the things I didn't really like about the chapter. So there's obviously a few of those, but in general, I guess the arc was very, very good and very touching. And if you want to know the reasons and discussion, I want you to go ahead and look at my last video on it. Anyhow, let's go ahead and go to the latest arc, which was the Killua arc. And as far as the whole concept with her sister and how her family regards her sister as it and as a machine and not actually family members, I thought the whole thing was very cool, the whole rule thing. However, you know how like there's so many rules. Apparently, a lot of people just skim over manga, so they don't really sit down to understand it. But as far as the hold on, I can keep going. As far as the what was I talking about? As far as the rules go, it's not simply like a few set rules. There's actually a whole structure behind it. So let me just explain. First, there's I believe his name's Miluak or something like that. He has 5 rules for this girl, and Miluak is the fat older brother of Killua, and so he has 5 distinct rules for the sister. And if you want to know them, just look them up on Wikia. And then on top of that, you have those 4 standard rules, I believe, that Killua first mentioned. So that's, I think it's a total of 9 rules, but some of those rules pretty much merge together. And so the general gist of it is that, you know, you do these amount of things for the girl, then she will give a wish, and the wish can be anything, and then the cycle repeats. But the great thing about it is that the price for the wish is put onto the next person who gives the wish. So therefore, if you wish for $1 million, you pay a huge price, right? But then the price is given to whoever makes the next wish. And so it's kind of like a very selfish sort of concept. And obviously, if you don't do all her wishes, then she goes crazy, and depending on which mode, you can end up dying along with just one other of your loved ones, or dying and then killing like tons and tons of people. I believe it's like it was very vague, but it scales on the people you spend the most time with, and I believe it's like the top 10 or something. So like if you spend an equal amount of time with all your classmates, then all your classmates are going to die. And so that's the general gist of it. It's sort of like a Death Note sort of thing. And as far as people wondering if I read Death Note, no, I don't really want to start. I kind of read the entire plot summary from start until end of the series, and that took like it was a long read, but it kind of spoiled things for me. But at the same time, it seems like a very dark, scary sort of manga story, and so I don't really want to get into that sort of thing. I don't know, but yeah, the point of it is, you know, you either do her 3 wishes. They call them pesterings in the book because she pesters you to do them, and then you probably read it, so you know what's going on. And remember that part where she asks, there's this one part where she pretty much asks one of the butlers, the grandma butler, I forgot her name, Zoda Talk or something like that. She asks the grandma butler to pretty much give her one of her fingernails. And so it seems like it's legitly a fingernail, and it's not like a fake fingernail. So she asked this 3 times for 3 separate fingers, and the butler just does it, and we don't see it. Like, we don't see any of the actual part. We just see like the nail being flung over in 3 separate panels for like 1 or 2 different chapters. And I just thought this was ridiculous because the butler was like, not a problem, and she was female. And sure, we do know that the power levels of people in Hunter x Hunter are fairly high, but at the same time, it's like, it's your nail. This is not an easy task. Like, if you lose your nail, it's going to be massive amounts of bleeding, massive amounts of pain. I mean, in fact, it's probably one of the most painful things to be removed. And so for her to just say, no problem, and then let it go, didn't really make sense. And we do know they were real nails rather than like fake nails, because later on Killua makes the wish for the nails to be healed. And so that was just something, a little weird thing that I didn't really understand. But on top of that, there's another thing. The whole, I always really try and understand things if they're interesting, and so I really try to understand all the rules behind this girl. But obviously, I just got so tired. However, I still did understand pretty much all the rules and discussion and sort of relationships going on with the election series. And if you've read the manga, I mean, it goes on forever. Like, they talk about politics and all the elections and like rules and relationships for, like, I would say like at least 20 chapters straight through. And it was the most boring chapters ever. So because of that, at the most, I'm going to have to knock down the rating from a 10 out of 10 to at the very highest, I'm going to knock it down at 2 to 3 points. So at the very highest, this arc, as of so far, can only get a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 on the rating. There will be more points that might be deducted later on. And so, very interesting stuff, to say the least. And so, one thing I noticed was there's quite a deal of loopholes. Well, not quite a deal. One big loophole in the whole rules concerning this girl. I forgot the girl's name. However, the girl, we do know the girl calls Killua Oni-san when she's actually a girl, and then when she turns to it with the dark eyes, she calls Killua Killua. And so, basically, hold on. Basically, what's going on is that I immediately noticed one loophole, and I'm sure if people really thought about it, they can identify quite a few loopholes with this sort of these rules. And I wouldn't call it a loophole, more so as stuff that is blatantly obvious that should be explained, but it's not. Here's the big thing, right? You got the rules for the girl. You have to listen to 3 of her spells. If you disobey 4 in a row, you pretty much die. Yeah, you die along with your loved one. So here's what I'm saying. You know how if you obey 3, right? Her eyes turn like all black, right? What if you just leave her like that? And that was like the whole gist of the whole, like a lot of the flashbacks. They were scared of her eyes turning black, so they did whatever means to revert her eyes back to normal. And they found out, obviously, that in order to do this, they pretty much just had to make a wish. But here's the thing. It was never mentioned why these eyes were bad. I mean, obviously, if you watch like horror movies, this is a common thing in horror movies, so it could be naturally implied that these eyes are bad. But at the end of the day, it was never mentioned in any shape or form that the eyes were bad. The only time, like the very first time it occurred, the butler screamed and ran, and then from there, it was just naturally assumed that the eyes were bad. And the moment I read that, I was just like, what the heck's wrong with the eyes? Just get contact lenses. What the heck? And so here's the loophole I very quickly deduced. Why can't you just keep the black eyes after obeying 3 wishes and just continue going? And then maybe if she asks for more stuff, you just obey the wishes, and then her eyes will maybe get more black. Who knows? Who cares? And so that was never explained. And I guess I'm thinking it's either 2 reasons. One, the creator was sloppy, or like he just forgot about this, and he never really explained why the eyes were bad. But he intended for the black eyes to be bad. Maybe she goes on a massacring rampage if you leave her too long in that black-eyed form. But it was never stated in any way. And I don't blame the creator of the series if that was the case. Why? Because he has so much other stuff to sort of juggle in his head when he's creating the storyline for this series. So it's not a big surprise if he forgets like something like this. I mean, the Hunter x Hunter storyline it's getting pretty detailed. And so the other reason is possibly just because maybe he left it out on purpose, because maybe there truly is no real bad result if her eyes turn black. Or maybe she's actually very, very nice, or this it form is actually very, very nice if you don't make a wish and you just leave it in that it form. And maybe it's just a sort of misunderstanding that the author purposefully set up, and the misunderstanding was just that people just naturally assumed that this black-eyed form of the girl was horrible, whereas in reality this black-eyed form was just completely fine. And so that might be the case. That truly might be the case. And here's another thing. What if you like? There's so many other branches that I can think of from this loophole to make other loopholes. So if you just leave her in this black eye form, what happens? And let's say you refuse to make a wish. What happens? What if nothing happens? And then you leave. Let's say Killua did that, and then he left without making a wish, and then he traveled like to the other side of the country. Then wouldn't that in effect cause a sort of stasis to prevent her from ever making any more wishes? And you can apply that same concept with what was implemented here, which was once the girl chooses someone to pester, she cannot switch targets. So if that target leaves, then she's stuck in a sort of stasis until she returns and can continue pestering this person. And so that's another way of continuing stasis. And they did kind of fix that loophole with another rule. Basically the rule was if that person ever died, then it would continue on. She would start over with a level 1 wish. So that brings up another loophole, and I'm not going to spend eternity talking about loopholes. I'm sure you can come up with more, but I just think I wouldn't call it sloppy, but slightly sloppy that the creator, despite putting all this time into the boring election, couldn't patch up all these loopholes. So the other big one I wanted to mention before moving on was just a way of just being able to make big wishes without paying a cost. So as you can see, the rule is that if you make big wishes, like I want to be a billionaire, the next person exposed to the girl's pestering will have to either fulfill or decline very, 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 very tough demands. And if you make simple wishes, like I want a pencil, she's going to make very simple demands afterwards to the next person giving a wish. So it's kind of not fair. You can just go in, make a wish, and then leave. Or you can wait for an easy wish to be fulfilled, then take those easy demands. But here's the loophole, okay? What if you make a big wish, like I want to be a billionaire, take the money, right? And then obviously now she has to give very hard demands, right? And so you expose her to one person who, let's say he obviously can't fulfill the demands. So he says no 2 times or 3 times, right? And then before the 4th time, you just kill that person. And then what happens is that resets it. So based on the rules, the girl pretty much goes back down to level 1 wishes. And by doing so, you only end up killing 1 person rather than the hundreds that might die otherwise. So I guess that's a slight loophole. It's not perfect. I mean, you're still killing 1 person, but there you go. And obviously there's apparently one more secret wish that Killua has yet to reveal. There's obviously been one revealed already that was secret, which was Killua just revealed it. I can't remember what it was, but it was something like oh yeah, if she does healing spells or healing wishes rather than destroying wishes like a lot of people do, then the demands afterwards will not be tough at all. And it's just because, as Killua explained, it is actually not a bad person. it's actually always trying to fulfill good stuff, and the punishment is always to the wicked people who intend bad stuff or destruction or murder. And so it leads that leads to another question which I didn't really understand, which was, why did the girl who wished for $1 billion not just take that money and run? Instead, she stayed in the state, did not take the money, and then just pretty much, like, you see a panel of her afterwards, and she's just like bowing on the floor saying, "I'm sorry, I got greedy." And so maybe, I don't know, maybe the Zodiac family found out somehow. And that leads to the next question, which was, remember I believe the older fat brother's called Miltic or something. He used a wish once before. There's 2 times when a big wish was used. He used a wish before to sort of kill someone. So why does he have to do this? Maybe he was lazy and didn't want to assassinate, or could not assassinate this person. And that's just more stuff about the Zodisic, or whatever the name the family is. More stuff about the family I didn't really understand. They seem to be killing. They seem to be murdering for money, and they have no moral, like, guidance whatsoever. And that perspective was kind of skewed back when Grandpa Zardisic decided not to continue killing the King, Chimera, and King, because, like, he felt really bad about it. But at the same time, I understand, because, I mean, Illumini, which is like the eldest Zardisic child. Again, I know I'm probably pronouncing all of these names wrong, but he is, in the latest chapter, pretty much, he's found out that this girl's abilities, if you know all the rules and know how to use it properly, can have almost infinite power. And so now we see in the latest chapter that he's pretty much trying to obtain this girl, even though it's technically her sister, but he does not consider this girl a sister anymore, or family, just a sort of machine. And so it's very interesting to see what's going on here. And yeah, now to the election part. So Chimera Ant arc, great. The whole Kato thing, very interesting. Remember, I do want to mention this, touch on this. Kato apparently got reborn as the twin sister of the Chimera Ant King. There's a lot of implications here. Does this mean she's just as strong as the king? First off, the king wasn't that strong. I mean, he did technically lose to Netero even after he absorbed the guards. So technically, I mean, this girl at the highest possibility could only be strong as the king before he absorbed the royal guards, because she is in fact the twin sister. And some people might say, oh, she's not a twin sister, she was just a failed birth after the king hatched. But if you look at the Wikia, it's confirmed multiple times she is the sort of sister. And so here's my next question. If this is true, then that leads to a lot of other questions, like well, let's say she's weaker, or let's say this is Kaido. The Chimera Ant King, I'm assuming he didn't really remember any memories. None of the royal guards did. So if this is the king's twin sister, why did she remember everything? And it seems like, right as of now, it doesn't seem she has all the memories, but at the same time she has Kato's spirit. She looks like Kato, but she's female, and she acts like Kato. So what I'm assuming to happen, and it's sad, but it's the truth, Kato's dead, the memories might return, but at the same time, this new sort of Chimera Ant who is being grown up is simply a new life form. Sure, she might have resemblances and behavior and mannerisms that are similar to Kato, but I don't know, it's hard to say. And again, in the latest chapter with Ging meeting Gon, Ging mentions that there was a slot number that only comes up on Kato's weapon if he is in a very dire situation and he really has the will to survive. And so, based on a Wikia and based on what was said, it seems to be confirmed that Kato's brain was eaten by the queen. And so, at best, with the highest, like the most optimistic perspective, which I want to take because I want the best for Kato, but the most optimistic perspective would be that Kato died, his brain was eaten by the king, by the queen. This was all confirmed. He was reborn as a female twin sister of the Chimera and King. Obviously, she didn't get the nutrients, but at best, the girl loses all her sort of consciousness, and then Kato's memories and everything get returned. But now he's female, which doesn't really make sense. We do know that Chimera ants have heightened growth, so we will know soon enough what's going to happen, if she will remember anything. But at the same time, I believe it will be something like Oob from Dragon Ball Z, Majin Buu sort of reincarnation in a good form. This new reincarnation of Kato will in fact be a sort of, I would call it good, but it's not Kato. It's just going to be a new person who resembles Kato. Why do I think this is at best the most optimistic, best solution, given the facts, the tragic facts? Well, because quite honestly, it would be just as cruel for this girl, who we see to have her own personality, her own life, to be somehow consumed and erased, and for Kato to just repopulate this girl. And on top of that, it'd just be weird for Kato, with all his conscious memories and stuff, to inhabit a female form of himself for all the rest of his second life. I just think that'd be pretty weird. Now, for the actual election thing, I won't talk about it too much because it's already like 30 minutes into this video, but essentially what I do want to say is that a lot of manipulation and stuff going on. I don't like the blonde guy who's running for first place. I forgot his name, but it seems like he's going to win. And so I'm pretty sure he's going to win. And I think he definitely has some tragic, I wouldn't say tragic, but evil intentions behind him. And we don't know what's up with that. We really don't. And on top of that, I'm thinking he's just like very evil. Evil in a way that's literally evil, not Hisoka evil, where he's not really evil, he just chooses, he's very fickle in his decisions on which side to side with, not Hisoka evil, like legit evil. And so maybe, here's the thing, with the revealing of the Hunter Association and its members and how it works, I was kind of let down and disappointed because, I mean, once everything's just out there and it's not mysterious, and especially when the structure of the Hunter Association's not as great as I expected, I was just kind of let down. Why? Because it seems, based on Hisoka's assessment, basically there's this one time when in the chapter Hisoka's walking around assessing power levels of all the hunters showing up for the elections, and pretty much all the general audience hunters are like very low power level, which are, and they're all pretty much very much lower than Hisoka. And on top of that, then you got the 10 Zodiacs, which seem to be very close to the level of Illumini, which is Killua's brother. I probably pronounced the name wrong, but what I'm saying here is Hisoka did like a point system. So he assessed a few of the Zodiacs as well as Illumini, and they were pretty much up to par. They were all around 95 points out of 100. And so I'm assuming Hisoka, basing on his relationship and dialogue, especially in the latest arc with Illumini, I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong yet again, forgive me, but it seems like Hisoka's slightly weaker than him, which is why he's trying not to get on his bad side. But at the same time, maybe not. Maybe he thinks he can beat him. And he does. The one piece of evidence is that Hisoka says, he was like thinking to himself, maybe I should kill Killua. No, maybe I should kill Alluka so that Killua will get mad at me. Then I'll kill Killua, and then Illumini will get mad at me, and then I'll kill Illumini. And basically, if you've been reading the series, you know that Hisoka's main and only goal throughout the series is to find strong people that he can fight and beat. And it's sort of like the same idea that, again, spoilers to Bleach, same idea to the guy in Bleach, I forgot his name, Zenpachi Kuraki. Zenpachi Kuraki. Basically, Kuraki, same sort of mentality. He can't find anyone who's stronger than him, and he's constantly searching, and that's his whole goal in life. And obviously, that's not like in Bleach. He does eventually find someone. Oh no, he never finds. Okay, I'm not gonna spoil it, but you get the idea. And so I liken that to Hisoka, and I really like that sort of character trait and personality. I really wish they would bring that forth more in more manga series and make these characters more prominent, because Hisoka and Kenpachi, they don't get a lot of time in the series. They don't get a lot of face time. Anyhow, as far as Hisoka is concerned, I really don't think he's the strongest in the series, although he's constantly searching for people to battle because he can't find anyone who he can beat. Why? Because I believe Crollo, Lucilifer, is stronger. We don't know what's going on with him. It seems like Hisoka's been pretty much helping him recover for the last arc and a half, and it seems like he's finally gone on his way. Is Crollo recovered yet? Did he beat Crollo? Probably not. Did he lose to Crollo? Probably not. Most likely, based on his sort of personality, as of right now, it seems like they have still yet to fight, and Crollo may still be just recovering. And so, what we do know about the Nen user who was taken to fix Crollo was that, first off, he's pretty strong. He might have been able to fix Gon, maybe not, but we do know that his ability may not, in fact, be a permanent Nen fix. And I discussed this earlier in my other review video, but essentially, we see in the Greed Island arc that although he removed the dynamites, he still had to eventually, when he had a chance, go up to the bomber guy and say, I've captured the bomber. And then we see a lot of smoke come out of him, which pretty much means that he has now officially deactivated the Nen ability the legitimate way without using any Nen remover abilities. And so that might mean that this Nen user can only, on a superficial level, remove Crollo's sort of Nen or Nen restrictions. And so that might mean that if Crollo does come back, then they might be able to defeat him by just revealing that his Nen chains are still deep down still there. I'm going to put these down so I can talk better. And so back to the whole election thing. The final thing I want to talk about is Ging and Gon. I didn't even like at all for them to just meet like this. Why? Because at least how it was depicted in the anime, like the whole story seemed to revolve, like all 300 chapters seemed to generally on the highest level revolve around Gon trying to find Ging, and Ging being some highly powerful top 10 person in the entire Hunter x Hunter universe who was exceptionally skilled, exceptionally powerful, far beyond power of anyone you've seen before, and impossible to hunt down. And basically what happens is, what I kind of sensed this when we found Kato to be a disciple of Ging, and Kato to be so freaking strong. And I didn't like at all that they just met like this, just randomly walked in, oh, there he is, hello, blah 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 blah. And so I really hope that in the future, what's going to happen, because after that their brief exchange with Gon meeting Ging for the first time, and Gon pretty much being very shy and pretty much simply talking about Kato, the whole interaction, that this interaction did not count. And so therefore, since it did not count, um, Gon leaves the event, leaving Ging behind because Gon has to do some stuff, and therefore I would hope that it's going to be regarded as this doesn't count. Uh, Ging only had to be here because of the elections, and that is why he couldn't leave. And therefore, sure, you got lucky this time, but the real first time you meet Ging is going to be a lot harder when he's actually out in the wilderness and hiding himself. And it'll only be accomplished once Gon is very, very strong. And I don't necessarily think the creator of the series has the exact same intentions that I just described, because in that chapter panel, like, you saw constantly the dialogue from the audience saying, "Ging, you're a bad father," blah 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 blah, and it was almost like a gag sort of scene with like Ging pretty much being pushed to talk to his son. And so maybe this is regarded as their first official interaction, and maybe Gon's now pretty much given up on chasing Ging. Probably not, but he might have other goals in mind, and the series might just depart from there. Now, finally, to talk about Gon, I think he's gotten a little selfish, for sure. In the whole Chimera Ant arc, starting from the invasion up until now, he's been very selfish, only thinking for like his own ideals. He's pretty much turned a blind eye to Killua this whole time. I mean, Killua's gone out of his way to protect Gon all this time. From the moment Gon was immersed in Zetsu for a month, from the pot clean to the time when Killua did all the stuff to pretty much bring down the Chimera Ants to help Gon, and then Killua saving Gon after he passes out after the fight with the Neferapatu cat Chimera Ant, and then now Killua obviously busting his butt, risking his family, risking the like all the retaliation from his family, going against his family, and doing all this stuff just to heal Gon, and Gon not ever once even batting an eye or acknowledging Killua for all this. And on top of this, Killua has pretty much told them not to tell Gon, and on top of this, Killua now has to honor his agreement of two things. One is fulfilling all the demands the girl is now going to place, which are going to be huge. Just because Killua is a nice person and doesn't want to place these demands onto the next wisher. And I think it was slightly foreshadowed that Killua intended that no one else ever used this girl for wishes, which is going to be hard because his older brother now wants this girl for all sorts of things. And the second thing is just Killua has to honor Biscuit's sort of agreement that since Killua was not strong enough to beat Knuckle and his friends, Killua now has to separate with Gon from now on. And so it seems like Gon's just pretty much completely sort of reckless on multiple occasions, from the occasion where he just goes balls to the wall and almost gets himself killed along with Kato at the first occurrence where they meet the cat ant, and also now also at the time when they met the cat again, and pretty much from what I saw, Gon was just too weak. He still thought he was too weak to kill the ant, so he placed all these Nen restrictions on himself and pretty much said, if I don't kill the ant, I'll die, and pretty much said, I'm going to give my life just to kill this ant. And he's being very selfish, killing himself, thus like removing himself as Killua's only friend. And for Killua to do all this stuff, you know, bringing Gon back, and knocking Gon out so he doesn't go crazy and get himself killed along with Kato, etc., etc. So it's very sad. Killua's doing all this because it's like his only friend, and I think Gon's just very selfish at this point. And once he's woken up from, like, I mean, you saw this one panel of how he looked after the fight with the Neferupatu cat, and his arm was literally the arm of an old person, so freaking wrinkly, very much like Netero's arm after he died, or right before he died. And yeah, Gon just gets up all out of bed, completely healed, and he's like, I'm going to election. Oh, it's Ging. I'm going to talk to Ging, and just completely oblivious to all this. And so I'm very curious to see how it goes. So I'm going to break this current arc down into 2 ratings. One for just the bad, boring stuff, like the elections, and one for the good stuff, like the whole girl granting wishes, Killua doing all this stuff, the fights, the needles, Hisoka, Leorio, just the funny Leorio guy with all his dialogue, his personality, punching Ging, and almost becoming president. And then the bad stuff, which was just like the boring election, all the boring dialogue, how Gon and Ging met, how ridiculously lame Gon's being to Killua. So 2 ratings. The good rating is going to be a solid 7.8 out of 10. The bad ratings, I'm going to give it a solid 6.5 out of 10. 6.4 out of 10 actually, a little bit lower. So thank you guys if you actually watch 40 minutes, all 40 minutes, the entire video. Let me know in the comments if you did. Let me know in the comments if you have watched all 43 minutes of this video, just to know, like, get an idea of sort of how much people are watching of this. And it really just shows a lot of respect if you actually watch this whole thing. Quite honestly, I believe, like, on average in the internet, like the average click-through rate is like after 1 minute. So I know I want to, like, keep it short, but I just can't. There's just so much I want to talk about, and so that is why they unfortunately go on for a long time, 43 minutes. And so leave a comment so I can appreciate what you've done, and just sort of like, oh, that's pretty cool, someone actually did. And see you guys later. Like, favorite, and subscribe.